Hello students and welcome back to the classroom. Tim back here from Lessons on the Web once again today, and today I have a great lesson for you. We're going to be talking about how to play piano with more depth and more brilliance. And to do that we have to talk about all the other little things in music other than the notes, such as articulations and dynamics, just to name a few. I'm going to go into detail on how to master those so you can play piano like a real pro. And I also have a special example that I made just for this lesson. So let's not waste any time and let's get started. Okay, so moving into the first point here, we're going to be talking about phrasing. I can't tell you how really important phrasing really is, but I'm going to try. So what phrasing really is, I'm going to tell you what it is first. Phrasing is basically grouping groups of notes together and giving them, connecting them together in such a way that makes sense in terms of what the composer is trying to convey. A great example of this is that if you are speaking, you put punctuation in your sentences so that they have a certain rhythm to them, so they make sense. Because if you talk in run-on sentences and you don't have any spaces in between, it sounds really bad and robotic. That's why they teach us proper grammar when we're writing, where to put those commas, where to put those periods, because if you're reading them without it, it makes it extremely difficult. And I think some of the great literary works wouldn't be the same if they didn't have any punctuation whatsoever. But in terms of music, what these are specifically are things like slurs. So as you can see in this example that I have written here for us today, that in measure 1 you have these notes slurred together. You see how they are slurred together in groups of 4/8 notes there? So you're going to connect those together. However, if you see that there's a break in the slur there, that means you're actually going to have a slight, ever so slight and subtle break in the sound. See how you have that? Ba-da-ba-da. It's almost like I have a breath in there between those two ideas. So that's what it's like. And then, obviously up top, I have, staccato. So I'm going to play those. The phrasing is really simple there because it's really just one individual note there. So phrasing is all about using slurs to connect notes together in ideas that make sense. And it can add a lot of depth to your playing. If you are playing without these and ignoring them, you are missing out on a huge part of what makes music sound like music. So for this first part here, this is actually in two parts. The first part I named Snow because when I was writing it, it just reminded me of snow. The dynamics also reflect that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this first part here first with totally ignoring any phrasing whatsoever. And I'm going to show you what that's going to sound like. It's not going to sound like much. So here we go. Actually, I had to try not to put the phrasing in since my brain is already trained to do it. So it sounded okay, right? It sounded, I guess you could say, like music. There was notes in there, but let me put the phrasing in and I can show you how much more dynamic or how much better it sounds. Oops. Just like that. So as you can see, just by adding in the phrasing in where they're supposed to be, it adds more brilliance and more depth to the song. But that's not the only thing we have to be worried about or we have to practice. We have to talk about the next thing on the list, which will be dynamics is the next thing we're going to talk about. Dynamics are super, super important when you're learning how to play music. If you are ignoring your dynamics, like with phrasing, you are missing out on a huge part of what makes music what it is. So what are dynamics? Dynamics, very simply, are the pianos, the fortes, pianissimos, fortissimos, the crescendos. Anything where you're changing volume in what you're playing is dynamics. Now, if I play it all at one dynamic level, it sounds okay, but how about, since this part is called, if the song was called Snow, it makes sense if it had a very light kind of sound to it. There is a crescendo there to forte, but as you can see, it returns to pianissimo rather quickly. So here we go. And there you go. It sounded like snowfall to me, a lot more than what it sounded like in the beginning. Let's talk about part 2, storm, since dynamics are huge in this as well. So here is storm. It's mainly diminished seventh chords, but if I just play them at any old dynamic levels, it sounds okay, but it really lacks the depth. Now, well, we're actually going to talk about that next thing just for a second. So you really don't have to worry about phrasing in this one since there aren't any arcing lines, there are no slur lines. So we're just going to concentrate on the dynamics. I'm going to add the dynamics in, and we're going to see how that adds another layer into our playing. So here we go. There we go. So I put in the fortissimos where they were, I put in the pianissimos where they were, and it added in a whole nother dimension into our piano playing. Let's move on to the next point of this lesson. Actually, you know what? Maybe I should play the entire thing. Let me play the entire thing and I'll show you the dynamic change. That's a good idea. How was that? I think that was a bit better that time. If it is pianissimo, how do you play accented notes without playing them louder than pianissimo? Great question. You will hit it with more force, but you'll keep it within a limit. Now, you're right that if you have an accent on it, it will probably kind of break out of the pianissimo sound to it. You're right that it is kind of a contradiction. A lot of times with accents, you'd have fortes, but you can have them in pianissimo. It's just that those notes with the accents on them in pianissimo will be louder than the notes without the accents in pianissimo. But you're right that technically it can break out of that pianissimo range, but it's only temporary, just for that one note. Okay, the next and final thing we're going to be talking about tonight in terms of the main topics are articulations. Now, what are articulations? A lot of students actually are confused on what articulations are. Well, they're basically any marking that's not a dynamic marking. Even the slur lines I was showing you earlier when we were talking about the snow portion of the example, those are technically an articulation, because any kind of thing that tells you how to play a note, other than just like the normal dynamics, is an articulation. So staccatos, playing the note short, it's telling you, hey, play these notes short. That's an articulation. The slurs are articulations. What else are articulations? Well, we have at least one more in this piece, and those are the accents. The accent, you'll hit that one note louder, right? So it really adds a punch to the notes. Again, anything that really tells you how to play the notes is an articulation. Some other ones I don't have in here, like sforzandos, and there are different types of accents as well. Okay, so let's go into here, and we're going to talk about adding in all of the articulations into this piece. So keep in mind that when I'm playing the snow portion, it's really important to be playing the staccato short whilst playing the legatos, connected together to help create, what was that thing called? We started about in the very beginning of the lesson? Phrasing, right? So it all kind of congeals together into this idea of proper phrasing. just like that. So just by having the notes short, you can convey the idea of snowfall, which is really like what a lot of these things are doing. When composers are writing music, they aren't so much thinking of like, oh, I'm going to put a 1 chord here and a 4 chord here and a 5 chord. I mean, they kind of do, but a lot of like how they want the notes to be played all has to do with this character or this type or this theme that they want the song to have. So obviously, if you have a song about snowfall, it's going to be light, but it's going to have some staccatos in it, like, so, because snow has that like light pointed kind of feel to it, whereas storm has some accents to it because it really punches you. You know, a storm is very violent, and you know, so you use the proper articulations for whatever the mood of the piece is. So now I'm going to play the whole thing, keeping in mind all the articulations and all the other things at the same time. So it's all layered. I'm keeping in mind the articulations. I'm also trying to work in the dynamics. I'm also trying to work in that proper phrasing, right? So let's go through that, and I'm going to play the whole thing. Let me try to get it in view here so we can all see it. Okay, here we go. Okay, one thing I really want you to start thinking about are what are the 3 topics we discussed today. So either write them down in the comments or, you know, kind of think them to yourself. What were the 3 main topics? Because you really have to get these in your mind, and you have to make these a part of your regular practice for this to work. It won't make much sense for you to be like, oh yeah, the 3 ones are, you know, phrasing, articulations, and if you don't have it by now, dynamics. You have to be able to fit these into every piece that you practice. Now, obviously, if you're a beginner, you're going to want to work on notes first. That makes the most sense. Then, shortly after, you do want to add in these smaller details. If you are ignoring these, like I said many times, you're missing out on a huge, huge range of what makes music what it is. You'll just be basically playing notes without these little details, and it takes a lot of time to add them in. You'd be surprised on how much time you'll take learning the notes versus learning the articulations and everything. It seems simple enough. Oh yeah, I'll just play this passage soft with the slurs and the, you know, the staccatos and everything, but it takes time. You really have to sit down with it and add these things in. So make these, not only know what these are, but make these a regular part of your practice. All right, next, I want you to leave a comment. What do you struggle with out of the main topics we talked about tonight, mainly being dynamics, articulations, and phrasing? So which of those do you find the hardest, and what questions do you have about those? I really want to know, because when we all come together and learn together, we all learn a lot more. Like I say all the time, when I see some questions sometimes, it really opens up my eyes to different things I didn't think about before, because as you learn something, you kind of get in a certain mindset, and a lot of times a new fresh set of eyes, you'll see something that I didn't see, and possibly what other students didn't see as well. So it's very, very valuable to our entire community. If you leave a comment, of course you don't have to, but it's always much appreciated. Okay, I'd really like to take this time to thank our contributors over on Patreon, especially Brian Fisher, who is a contributor at the $10 level. If you contribute at that level, I'll name you personally, but if not, I want to just thank all the other supporters on Patreon. You really make the channel possible, and you really help the channel grow into the future as well. If you want to learn more about it, you want to go to patreon.com/lessons on the web to learn about how you can help contribute towards these live streams and make them better than ever before. Okay, and another great thing I want to tell you about, if you like the lessons on this channel and you're like, I really want more, you know, I really want more lessons, I really want more practice, I really want to learn more topics than you cover on the YouTube channel, you definitely want to head over to my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. Let me send you up a link here. So pianolessonsontheweb.com, you can see it on the screen there. If you go there, you will find a lot of the courses. Actually, you'll find all the courses I've made over the last few years, and they have the same kind of instructional videos that you've come to expect from me, along with printable sheet music examples, real songs to play, assignments, and a lot of other things to really help enhance your learning. And like I mentioned a minute ago, it covers a lot of topics I haven't yet covered on the YouTube channel, and I probably won't for quite a while, maybe even, well, some of the more advanced topics I'll never cover on the YouTube channel, but it covers them a lot more in depth. And it also goes over the beginner stuff too. So if you're a beginner and you actually want to review this stuff and you want to learn it, you know, all in order from beginning to end, you really want to check out pianolessonsontheweb.com to see what it can offer you. Actually, we're going to head over there right now, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what you can expect from the website. Okay, so here we are here on the website. You can feel free to, you know, scroll through the page and read all about it. A lot of the stuff I just mentioned, you can actually click this button, Browser Courses, to see what courses we do offer here. There's a little information about me on the website as well if you want to learn a bit more about my music background and my teaching background. Okay, so we have a lot of courses offered here. Just kind of glance you through them real quick. We have piano courses. We have a lot of those. Music theory courses, quite a few of those. Fewer rhythm courses, but we do have a fair amount, and I am making some new ones currently. Improvisation, you can learn about how to improvise using the B-flat blues that I play during the channel all the time. So if you're curious about how to play that, that's a good one to get. Sight reading, how to sight read, which is very, very important. And then let's see, ear training. Ear training is also very important. That's things like hearing intervals, hearing different chords, being able to tell the difference between major or minor chords. But not only that, just like really hearing the music that we're listening to and being able to pick out the important parts to it. And by learning this, you'll actually, ear training, you'll be able to pick out mistakes in your playing a lot easier, and you'll also be on your way to playing by ear, which I know a lot of people want to do. If you go to over here, you can obviously read. I'm using the wrong mouse there. But anyway, if you go over to the Buy Courses section of the website, you can see that there are course packs. Now, for each pack, you can click View Pack, and it'll show you what courses are included. You'll get a pretty big deal or pretty good deal because they are bundled together like that. So $40 for those 4 courses. Normally, they'd be $30 a piece. So you get a really good deal there. That's a great way for beginners to start, and make sure you get the all-around experience of learning piano, music theory, and all the things you need to know as a beginner. Now, if we go to the intermediate packs, as you see, they cost a bit more, but they come with a lot more courses. And like I said, they're all designed to be put together so that you're learning all the things you need to know for an intermediate student. Same thing with the advanced pack, and of course, you can get the all-course access as well. Use the code YouTube to get 15% off any purchase. So you can purchase any pack, any amount of courses, whatever. So you will get 15% off if you use the code YouTube during checkout. In case anybody doesn't know how I started playing piano, this is it. This is the creation story of the entire thing of Lessons on the Web, where it all began. I used to play a lot of video games. I still play video games sometimes, but as an adult, I just don't have the time anymore. But I used to play a ton of video games. In fact, I used to play them all day long, and it used to distract me from a lot of things in life. Now, I was pretty early on when my parents made this decision. I was about 6 years old, and my dad realized that, actually both my parents, realized that I was playing video games all day long and doing nothing else. I wasn't getting exercise. I didn't really have any other ambition to do anything, so they forced me and my sister, actually, and my brother, to take music lessons. My brother chose guitar, and me and my sister chose piano, and we started on lessons right away. Now, that didn't keep me from playing video games. You know, it basically just gave me something else to kind of gravitate towards other than video games. I still played a lot of video games, but at least got me doing something else, which I think was their main goal. And, you know, over time, my brother had kind of fallen out of it. And then he comes back every now and again. He'll start playing guitar again, and then maybe he'll like kind of leave it because he's in IT. He doesn't work in anything related to music. My sister doesn't either, so she dropped piano a while ago. I think every once in a while she'll come back and try to play some pieces or something like that. But I'm the one that stuck with it. I went to music school, Westchester School of Music in 2006. I graduated in 2010, and that's actually where my love of music and playing music and teaching music really grew, was then, because I got to 11th grade and I was like, well, I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but I think music is like the only thing else I have to gravitate towards besides playing video games. And I couldn't, at the time, there wasn't YouTube or Twitch or anything. So I was like, well, I don't think I could really make a career out of playing video games. That just doesn't make sense. Keep in mind, this was like 2005, 2006. So YouTube wasn't even really a thing. It might have just started then. So for me, there was no, career alternative there. So for me, it was, well, I'm going to go to music. So it really worked out because my parents wanted to give me something different than video games to do, and it worked. And then over time, I really grew to love this extra thing. And now I actually teach music way, way more than I play video games. Okay, students, that does it for today's lesson, but there's one thing I really want to tell you before you click off into another video, and that's that I have a website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. So if you really like the lessons you see here on the YouTube channel, and you're looking for a lot more, you'll want to check that out, pianolessonsontheweb.com. So go there, and then come back to the YouTube channel to watch more videos. So I'll see you in the next lesson or the next live stream. This has been Tim from Lessons on the Web. Thank you so much for being a part of our classroom, and I'll talk to you real soon. Thank you so much.